Hello, this is my 1978 Datsun 280Z, and I'm gonna take it for a spin, hopefully. It's been sitting in a barn for 30 years, basically since the 90s, and I just got it running and driving, and today I'm gonna take it on the first official test drive and show you guys what's going on with it, because it's got a lot going on with it. Being a 1978, this is the last year that they made these. You can see I have the 2+2, which means that it comes with 2 back seats. If you know anything about these cars, everybody is laughing at me now in the Datsun community because of how much they detest these cars. But hey, at least it's not a ZX. One of the things I heard about this car is before it was put in the barn, the owner was driving it during the wintertime, spun out, hit a pole or something, maybe some trees. I honestly don't know what it is because the damage seems to go from this door to this quarter panel all the way to this rear bumper where it kind of got smushed. As far as the rest of the cosmetic damage, there's not a whole lot of severe dents. There's just a couple here up on the front quarter panel, and there's a little dent on the driver's side quarter panel. And as far as rust goes on the body, boy oh boy does it have its fair share of rust. Like a lot of Zs, this has experienced plenty of weak points. It's got some pinholes here in the hood, has a bunch of rust forming on the front bumpers, around the headlight cowls, all along the front fenders, the mirrors, rear fender, rear quarter panels, by the gas tank, rear bumper, even a little bit on the hatch. Pretty much all of the major points that you're going to see on a lot of these Zs. As far as a vehicle like this goes, I don't know if I'm the type of person who wants to go that deep into restoring this car. I'm sure somebody out there could. It's definitely enough together where you could if you wanted to. A lot of the trim, however, is still pretty intact. You have a few of these pieces that are kind of starting to fall off. These pieces have just started to come off, started to show their age, but most of it is still kind of there. I feel like you guys want to check out the interior. Let's check out the interior. So when I first got this car, it was filled with mouse poop everywhere. It was absolutely disgusting, and I had to immediately rip everything out of the inside of the car, shampoo it, vacuum all the mouse poop out, and it's so bad that some of the rust that the, I guess, fecal matter and urine created has like seeped into it chemically, and you can still kind of smell it on a lot of the stuff. I think a lot of that has been dealt with at this point, and a little bit of the smell is still left in like the back seats. There's some mesh on the fabric, so I think another few cleanings are due for those, just to try to inch out a little bit more of that mouse poop smell and urine. As far as the carpets though, since I was able to get them out and just pressure wash them, they smell a lot better now. They just kind of have this weird, I don't know what it is, BO smell? It doesn't smell like mouse poop. But yeah, after the carpets were removed, washed, cleaned, all that disinfected, bleached, they were let out just in the elements, in the sun, to dry for a solid couple weeks while I was patching up the rust on the passenger side floor, but we can get to that in a second. So the carpet did experience a little bit of damage from the mice, but is overall in really good shape. And I think the most extreme wear that you can see is really just sun fading from the UV. So in the parts of the carpet that have been covered up, you can see it's much darker than some of the rest of the fabric that was exposed to the sun or to the elements, whoever was driving this vehicle before. And the leather, or pleather as it is, on a lot of these seats is still in really good shape. The worst spot is there's a little hole in the driver's side. One of the worst parts, I would say. Other than that, there's just a few cracks in the dashboard, some sun fading on some of the black plastic, which can easily be fixed. And of course, the steering wheel wrap is disintegrating. It's pretty gross, but I feel like that happens a lot on these older cars. Even on a lot of newer cars, you'll see they're starting to disintegrate, and that's just one of those things that happens over time. All of the lights except for the main map light above the HVAC are all working, and I'm really pleased about that. And it's just so cool to see this vintage aesthetic with all of these big labels. It just kind of makes you feel like you're in a jet plane or something with all these massive things like fasten seat belts, rear defogger, hazards, even the low fuel light. All of the gauges in the dash still have a nice warm glow when you light it up, so all the bulbs in there are still working good, so you can see while you're driving at night. The lights on this car weren't working. I made a quick video about that. I actually spent a few days straight just chasing down electrical problems that were going on with the lights. There were some wires in the back that were totally chewed through by mice. There were more wires kind of between the switch and the back that have been chewed that I had to repair. So now those were fixed. The stock shifter is definitely a little bit worse for wear. It feels pretty floppy. You can tell that it's been used a lot. I think whoever has this long term definitely wants to take up some of that slot because it's pretty noticeable. The nice thing about having a rear-wheel drive transmission is it bolts directly up, so the shifter linkage itself feels really sloppy. You can still definitely tell where the gears are. Now the 2+2 is supposed to be the uglier model as far as enthusiasts care to talk about it, but I think it's a pretty neat design. You can fold it back for a little bit more storage. It's a little bit longer storage than the actual 240s and the 260s had, and they're not the most practical in terms of storage, but honestly, I feel like the front of the car is long enough that I usually don't have the seats all the way back, and they actually have a little bit more leg room. The seat belts do have some damage. You can see the passenger side is definitely a little bit worse. Yeah. Before I open the hood, I need to get my tool. That'll work. So right off the bat, really awesome feature is the front opening hood. You know, it's actually so when you're going super fast, the hood doesn't get caught by the wind and fly up into the windshield. I think it's rated 170 in the book. We all know it's not making 170 horsepower. So this is the engine, the heart of the 280Z, and in fact the namesake, the 2.8 liter L28. It's the inline 6 that was mated to the aforementioned 5-speed transmission. It had a few problems, but really not too many. In fact, I haven't even done an oil change on it yet, which kind of terrifies me. You know, it's an L28, it'll be fine, right? So whenever you'd turn the key, you would hear nothing from the fuel pump. One of the first things I did was replace that, and there were a few hoses that were just a little bit suspect looking, and I probably should have gone into that more, and I'll tell you why later. After installing that, the fuel pump was a little bit different in terms of dimensions and layout, so I actually had to extend the wires that connect to the fuel pump and supply the power. I got that taken care of, got all the lines hooked up, tested it, new fuel pump was working, but I was getting really bad flow. I tapped a couple of the lines on the tank, it freed up, it was a lot better, but still it didn't really quite get solved. I went to go and start it, and the starter itself started giving out. Well, I guess it didn't start. It started not. So I got the new starter on, and it was doing this thing where it kind of wanted to run, but not really. I went ahead and took the airbox lid off, and what I saw was absolutely disgusting. A mouse had made a home in the air filter, and all of the mouse house debris had started getting sucked up through the engine, and I had to do my best to spray out everything that was inside of the intake manifold. And I went to start it again, a little bit of something, but it wasn't enough to start running. I took some fresh gas, I poured it down the intake boot, started up, idled, sounded really good, and then died. So we weren't getting fuel. Noticed that the gas still smelled very stale and was still very gross. I tried draining gas out of the tank and it looked pretty fresh from there, so I figured it must be varnish built up in the lines or something like that. So I took off the old fuel filter, which I figured must be soaked, contaminated, hooked it up directly to the fuel lines, and it started right up. Now it did have a misfire because only a couple of the injectors were actually firing off. So I was checking it with my stethoscope, listening, only heard a few of them going. Man, the mice love peeing over everything, which is, I mean, that's weird. If you were a mouse, would you want to like urinate over everything? I got the corrosion cleaned up and all the injectors started firing and it was running on all 6 cylinders. And after airing up the most horrific tires I've seen that still hold air in my life, I went ahead and took it for a short test drive. Well, I think you all probably want to hear it run now. So here we are on the road driving the 78 280Z in all of its, I don't know if I'd call it glory, more like exuberance, bravado. It's something, man. First thing you really notice is how incredibly rough these tires ride. I mean, they are terrible shape right now. I'm not quite sure how they hold air for more than 30 minutes, but they hold at pressure for like a few hours, enough to drive it around a bit. And I mean, it's something. I feel like it's convinced me that Michelin might just be the best brand. In fact, I think they should give me a sponsorship just for owning this example of this this pinnacle of tire excellence. Yeah, when we get going here, you might not notice through the camera, but the balance of these tires and whatever weights were put on them back in the 90s, well, it's certainly not accurate now, and you can feel some of these plies are even coming apart. So, and of course rubber degrades over time. It's like those pencils that when you get them when they're new, the erasers work great, and then after maybe like 5 or so years, they just turn into bricks and they just crumble and smear the graphite everywhere. Yeah, these tires are like that crumbly eraser. One of the first times I drove it, I was coming up on a quick-ish stop. There was someone trying to turn in a non-turning lane. So I come up behind him, I press on the brakes just a little bit, and it just skids. And I didn't hit anybody, I was far away, but that just goes to show how hard and sad and worn out these tires are. It's shaking the camera. That's how wobbly it is. You do notice though right away with this engine, with this L28, there's plenty of torque down low to get this thing moving. You can keep up with traffic just fine. This engine really holds quite well for this car, especially because it's a lighter coupe, a Japanese coupe. driving pretty nice other than these terrible tires. I definitely noticed the gears were kind of hard to find just because of how sloppy the shifter is. So you have to do a little bit of searching in order to find them, but once you know where the pattern is, the transmission feels pretty good. I know that the 6-speed swap from the 350 and 370Zs is really popular with these. They'll put the CD 009 transmission in them. For an old school notchy 5-speed, I mean, it's cool that it's even a 5-speed in the first place. A lot of these cars actually came with a 4-speed. I mean, even worse, I think a 3 or 4-speed automatic. There is one issue that this engine is having right now, and I'll just show you guys. So let's say I'm trying to do a pull in second gear and I step on it. We're totally fuel starving. I'm not sure if that picks up that well through the camera, but I have my foot down to the floor and it kind of picks up and then it just falls flat on its face, cuts out. And I'm sure we have a restriction still in the gas tank. Back when we were messing around trying to get fuel flow out of the fuel pump, you could tell that thing was having a hard time trying to pump it. And I think that not all that's cleared up, or something came loose and then got in the internal filter in the fuel pump. There's a little mesh screen that it has in the inlet. So I'm sure there's something going on there with it. There you can see making a right turn, it starts to fuel starve there because the pickup is on the right side. And it just can't maintain enough pressure. Holy shit. Pedal just went to the floor there. I don't know what all that was about. Oh my good lord. Yeah, okay, definitely gonna be a little bit careful with my brakes on the rest of this drive. Pedal is really low now. Before it was kind of stopping halfway, and now it's like really low, almost close to the floor. It makes me think maybe something's going on with the rear brakes now. Maybe an air bubble got moved, I don't know. Another thing it could be, the front pads are really low and kind of sticking. Maybe one of them started leaking. No idea. I hear rhythmic scrapey noises. Yeah, that's not a tire sound. All right, I made it back safely and uneventfully after that scare. I don't know what was going on there, but as you can see, there's still plenty of problems on this car to fix. All right, so yeah, definitely something is going on with this driver's rear brake. It is much hotter than the other brakes because that one is hot, and this one, I mean, I can keep my fingers on it. That one feels kind of warm too, and so is the driver's side front. All right, let's see, do I still have fluid? Okay, still got plenty in this back reservoir. There's definitely fluid there in the front. So not quite sure what happened, but I definitely got some kind of bubble, something went wrong. So if you guys want to see more videos about the Z and the progress that I make working on it, be sure to follow along on the channel. See you then.